3, 2, 1. Woo! Thank you. Take a seat.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Make yourself comfortable. Put your stuff on the floor. Put the little playbook we just gave you on the floor. Everything down. Relax. Make yourself comfortable. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to share something with you that's so simple and yet so powerful that it can change every single business you currently have and ever will have. Here's my partner, Paul.
Thanks, Tom. No pressure. So we are going to cover over the next 2 hours something we call systemization and turnkeying. And it's going to tie together everything and turbocharge everything that you've done and everything that you're going to do for the rest of this seminar. Before we begin, I'd like to talk to you about something that can really help you get what you want. You ready? All right. I'd like everybody to close your eyes for a minute. Sit back in your chair, relax, take a deep breath in, let it out, and as you let it out, feel yourself relaxing. There's a reason you're here today. You came here for something. There's something that you want to get for your business. Something that is so important to you that it was worth traveling from wherever you came from all the way here. You had to buy your airplane ticket, get your hotel, register for the course, take your credit out, pay for all this stuff. It was so important that you were willing to do that, and I'd like you to think about what that is for yourself. And really step into it. Feel the accomplishment of it. Really feel what that feels like. It's so important that it was worth doing all that. Yeah, that's right. And when you know what it is, and when you really feel the accomplishment of it, I'd like you to raise your right hand, open your eyes, and look up here. Great. That's great. Good. Thank you. Now, I want to take this a little bit further, because we're not about surface. We're about results, and we're about getting things done, and sometimes that takes a little bit of work, and you have to take things a little bit deeper. So we're going to take it a little bit deeper now, and I'd like you to once again close your eyes. And that thing that you just said was so important, I'd like you to think about why it was so important. What's so important to you about that thing? And as I ask you this, a lot of people think, well, you know, it's so that I can make more money. And that's true, and that's really important, but that's not all there is, because of course it's about making money. But for most people here, it's about something deeper, and I'd like you to think about what that is. For many people, it's about being a better provider, or being a better spouse, or being a better parent. And if it's one of those things for you, I'd like you to think about what's so important about that. And perhaps it's about making a bigger difference, or maybe just dominating your market and bringing out the best products and services possible. And if that's true for you, I'd like you to think about what that is and why that is so important for you. And as you think about that, I'd like you to see yourself accomplishing it and having that really important thing and stepping into that and feeling all the good feelings that come from that and feeling that sense of accomplishment. That's right. And when you've got it, raise your right hand just for a minute, open your eyes, and look up here. Great. That's just great. See, we're all here for a reason, and the intention that we set for the next 2 hours and for the entire seminar has a lot to do with the kind of benefit and the kind of learning and then the kind of impact that we have when we leave here. So I want to take this one step further. I want to take it to really what the most important thing is for you, and I want you to close your eyes one more time. Because those important things that you thought about, when you get them, I want you to consider, ultimately, what does that mean to you? Ultimately, what's going to happen, and what does it mean for you when you get all those things that you get from being in a seminar like this and putting it into play? and doing it and making it happen and getting results. I want you to feel what it feels like to ultimately get that. And as you feel that, notice how compelled you'll feel to take action on everything that you're learning over the next few days and today and before today. How compelled you feel to jump up out of your seats and really make it happen. And I want you to feel how that feels. One more thing. I want you to think of somebody who you deeply trust, and make a picture of them. And it might be your parent, or a good friend, or a spouse, or your children. It might be a business partner, or someone you've learned from, an educator, perhaps a pastor or a priest. Whoever that is for you, I want you to make a picture of them, and I want you to think about how important trust is, and why you trust them, and all the benefits that you get from trusting them, and even having trust in yourself. And when you really feel how that feels, and feel the accomplishment of it all, I want you to raise your right hand, open your eyes, and look up here. Thank you very much. Give yourself a hand. This is my partner, Tom Mattson.
So when you sat down, you were passed a little playbook. I want you to look at it. On the front corner, there's a number, the bottom front corner. It'll be a 1, 2, or a 3. Grab it and have a look. You won't need it right now. You just need to know your number, 1, 2, or 3. And if you can't find a 1, 2, or a 3, make one up. It's okay. Can we have all the number ones stand up, please? Look at that intelligent group of number ones.
There's a lot of ones.
A lot of ones. And they're intelligent, they're successful, they're vision-oriented, driven entrepreneurs. Wow. Let's have the stay standing ones. Number twos, join them, please. Not quite as driven, but a pretty nice group just the same. But they're here. That's the way. Some spunk.
At least they came.
At least they came. That's good. The number threes, join the ones and twos, please. Oh! Wow. Now there's the energy crowd.
Yeah.
The number threes are full of energy.
Thank you, threes.
Bad news. Ones and threes, sit down, please. See, there's a challenge. The bad news is 2 out of 3 small businesses fail in the first 6 years. Small Business Administration data. That means if you plan to succeed in the next 6 years and you're a 2, you might pull it off, but the 1s and 3s are all out of business then. So, but the good news is we're here to talk about what it'll take to be in that group. So take a seat, number twos. Let's get on with that. And it's not about vision or brains or looks, is it, Paul?
No, it's not about vision or brains or even good looks. I want to tell you about my first company, the one that Rob told you we sold for $9 million. So we started this company on $3 million of credit card debt and some really good ideas. 3,000, I'm sorry, thank you. 3,000 of my credit lines were not that big.
It just felt like that.
$3,000 of credit card debt and some very good ideas and not a lot of understanding about how to build a business. Hey, you have $3,000 in credit card debt. How much could you know? So we started this company, we had a great product, and we were very successful. And each year the company grew dramatically to the point where I had 90 people working for me. And we were selling product. Our products cost in the neighborhood of $1 million to $2 million. And each time we made a sale, unbeknownst to us, we lost money. And we were such a mess. We had this great product. We had the best product in our industry, a software for international banks. We were the best product in our industry, and we didn't know how to run a company. And we knew how to make sales, and we knew how to deliver the stuff. And each sale cost us money to the point where we were bankrupt. And we actually didn't even know we were bankrupt. We were looking for money. We could never really understand why we didn't have any. But we went looking to raise capital, and it was at a time when it was hard to get money for software companies, and people said to us, "You're bankrupt." And we said, "Oh my God, we are." And we'd been funding the company with, we had a big payroll, 90 people, so we had a lot of payroll taxes. And we would pay our payroll taxes late, or perhaps not at all. And I didn't realize the problem that this causes. And one day, I was thinking we'd pay it back. And then one day, the IRS came showing up. And to make a short story out of it, they said, not only are you bankrupt, are we going to close you, but you're going to go to jail. So this is what happens when you don't systemize a business. Now, it wasn't because we were stupid. This was my first company. I figured the way to build a business like this was to hire the smartest people I could find. I had a whole crew of managers. We had an average IQ of 140. This was an amazing business. It was just badly run. Great product, great marketing, badly run. So I'll cut to the short part. We got saved. We had a great product. Don't think you can do this. We had a great product, and somebody wanted our product, and they could have stolen the company for us. And I always think we had a guardian angel because they bought it for us for a pretty nice sum. They bought us out of debt. They saved our lives, basically. But the gist of it is you cannot build a business on a great product alone. You'll never get top dollar for it because here's the point. Had I known then what I know now about system building and turnkeying, we wouldn't have gotten $9 million for the business. We would have gotten what it was worth, which was about 90. That's the difference. Do you want to sell your business for some small fraction of what it's worth, or do you want to make millions and millions of dollars from it? Because the difference, see, people buy your businesses because they think that they're going to be able to do what you do, only much, much better. They're going to buy your business and it already runs right, and they're just going to add money and do more marketing, or they're going to add money and put more people on it, or they're going to add money and build more offices, and they're willing to pay you a lot because you've given them the seed to build that business with. But if they look at it and say, wow, this is pretty hard. These guys have a good idea and we'll be able to make something out of it, but we're not paying top dollar for it because it's hard. So what we're going to show you over the next 2 hours is how to make your business systemized so that it can be duplicated, so that you can step out of the way, and that if you want to, you can sell it for top dollar. You want to do that? Good. Let's move on. I want to tell you something. I tend to speak fast. There's a lot of stuff on our slides, and you won't be able to write it all down. So write down what you can, but more importantly, write down this email address. Now, at the bottom of your playbook, on the front is our URL, and you can just write freeforms at in front of that, or you can write this whole thing down, freeforms@quantumgrowthcoaching.com, and that will get you our slides. And for those of you who are sitting there with your BlackBerries, you can get them right now. It's all set up. So we built systems. So freeforms@quantumgrowthcoaching, now I can continue. So, to be successful, you need a large enough, rich enough market that wants what you offer and can pay a high enough price for it. Okay? Now that may seem elementary or obvious, but it's really critical to you building your business. A market that wants what you've got and is willing to pay for it and is large enough. Because if you don't have any of those three things, you don't make any money. Okay, number two, you have to have the ability to deliver in large enough quantities at a low enough price. Make sense? Okay, so you need those two things. If you don't have one or the other, you will not be successful to the degree that is possible. If you have them both, you can be awesomely successful. And it's easy. You don't have one or the other, it's hard. You have two together, it's easy. Okay, now businesses fail because they don't have one or the other. Good marketing, and you're learning a lot about marketing over these few days. Good marketing is the answer to the first. Good systems will make your marketing 10 times better than it was already, and is the answer to the second. The second is that you have to be able to deliver your product in sufficient quantities at a low enough price to you, at a low enough cost to you. Right? And that's just basic business, but people don't think it through. So, systemization is the answer to both of these things. Now, businesses built on experience and expertise. We're going to talk to you about systems. And systems are the opposite of building businesses on expertise and experience. See, most of us build businesses. I built my first company based on what I knew and what I was able to figure out and what I knew about software and what I knew about banks, but it had nothing to do with having something that was duplicable. No one could do what I did. That's why we had so many problems. No one could do. We had all these great little experts. I had smart people working for me, but none of them was duplicable. Every one of them was unique. What happens if everyone's unique? How hard is it to find people? It's hard. What do you have to pay them? A lot. What happens if they leave? You're in trouble. That's what happens when you build a business based on expertise and experience. Your results are inconsistent. What happens when people go on vacation? What happens when they have a headache? What happens when they're off doing something else? Execution is haphazard for all the same reasons. Anytime anybody does something, they tend to reinvent it. It gets boring doing things the same way over and over again. And if there's no playbook for how to do it, hey, we'll just make it up. Things that used to work are forgotten. Has that ever happened to anybody? You used to know how to do things, but you forgot. Or somebody used to know how to do them and they quit. The corporate memory walks out the door at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Sales go up and down for the same reason. Your salespeople are hit or miss. Some are good, some are bad. The good ones leave, sales go down. The bad ones don't know what to do when times are tough. Makes it hard to make money. Has this ever happened to anybody here? Show your hands. Sales go up and down. Who here has sales go up or down? Only some of you, and the rest are lying. Things change without anyone meaning them to, and I know this has never happened in anyone's company. But things will change because you don't have documented processes, because you're just winging it. And then lastly, there's one more. Recruiting is difficult, if not impossible, and I told you why. And if you're in the middle of everything, we talk about work-life balance, and you don't have any, because there's no time to do anything. I have friends who have not systemized their businesses who think that an 80-hour work week is normal. We're trying to change all that. Who wants to change all that? Show of hands. Good. There's cash flow. There's cash flow, right? Who all knows what cash flow is? It's when you have money coming in, right? But how do you get wealth? The money's got to stay there, right? There's two kinds of businesses. I met a valuation expert, another valuation expert, and he taught me something very, very interesting, which was that he said, you know, when you look at most people's financial statements, the ones with the coffee stains on them are the income statement. And everybody scrutinizes their income statement. Money coming in, money going out, money coming in. That's great, right? Except wealth is created on the balance sheet. Wealth is the assets that your business builds up over time. So it's not about dollars per hour. It's not about how many sales you can make. It's about the assets you can accumulate that somebody else wants to buy. If you take away nothing else today except to realize that you build your business on the balance sheet, it will completely change your fortunes. Because there's two kinds of ways of doing it. People build businesses because they want to win. They want to earn more money. They want to develop what? Financial freedom, right? They want to have financial freedom. And for a lot of people, that means the ability to do whatever it is they want to do, right? Even things like take a ride on a rocket ship if you wanted it to. Do you know what it costs to do that? Yes, that's right, $20 million. I mean, imagine how much money you've got to be able to spend $20 million on a one-day joyride. Right? That's real wealth. And that's what people start businesses for. They want to accumulate wealth. But most of the time it ends up looking like this. It's just more headache. Why? Because you are at the exact center of things. Because everything that flows through your business flows through you. And when the business is built that way, it's not a joyride anymore. It's a big fat headache. And our goal is to help you transform that. And we call it more profits and more life. Tom?
Let me tell you about a partner of mine. December 26, 2004, a wall of water crushed through Southeast Asia. You remember it, the tsunami. And like most of us, you were probably like me thinking, wow, that's terrible. I'd like to help out. And like most of us, you were probably stuck in your business and went, well, maybe donated a little bit here, or did a little bit here. That partner of mine, who happens to be my brother-in-law, said, I'm going to do something. He jumped on a plane 48 hours later, went to Sri Lanka, and spent the next 30 days helping save a particular village and help rebuild a particular spot. And then he came back, I think so too, thank you. And then he came back and worked on a number of things to put a program in place to sustain that. What was powerful for me in this setting is the fact he'd just come back from 4 weeks in Peru, up in Machu Picchu, exploring the jungles, getting in touch with his inner chi. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but he was there with my sister. They had an incredible vacation, and they had just come back a few weeks before. And yet he was able, on a moment's notice, to jump on a plane and do something that really mattered to him. Paul asked you earlier, what are you here for? What are you thinking about? Why are you doing this? It may be that. It may be something else. Our vision is that with a fully turnkeyed business, you can take off for 4 weeks. You never check in. You never check emails. You never call in. And when you come back, your business is running as well or better than when you left. That's the vision.
All right, so let's get to it. It's a system. Let me tell you about systems. I talk to people all the time about systems. That's one of the things we do. I was talking to someone recently. I said, talking about all the benefits of systems. He says, we've got systems. I said, yeah, show me. Where are they? They're all up here. That ain't systems. It is a system if it's written down. It is not a system unless it's written down. How do I know? No one else knows it if it's in your head. It's got to be documented. Every process in your business is documented. Every significant task is checklisted. What do I mean by a checklist? You can check it off. What do you do next? Well, it's right there on the check sheet. When it's done, we check it off. Everything is check sheeted. It can be done by a baseline level of skill. Now, what do I mean by that? I have a client who systemizes hospitals. He teaches surgical teams how to communicate. I'll probably mention him later. The baseline level of skill is that you had to be an MD to be in that hospital, because they don't teach those kind of techniques, and they can't be operated by the administration. They don't know how to do this stuff. But once you have the baseline level of skill, which in this case is you've been to medical school, then you can operate their systems and get pretty good results. They kill fewer people, right? That's really good. That's what their business is. It's called Safer Patients. So baseline level of skill. What is it that people need to know? If you're doing, if you've got a clerk job, then the baseline level of skill is that you have to speak the local language, right? So it depends on the job, but it's baseline level of skill. And you adjust your system for the appropriate baseline level of skill. Very important. Okay. Experts aren't necessary. If you need an expert, that's indicative that you haven't systemized your business. But once you've systemized it, you don't need any experts. And then lastly, and this is the real payoff, the business works with you or without you. If you need to be there, that's a pretty good indication that the business is not systemized. Okay. It's turnkey. Now, we make the distinction between systems and turnkey. Turnkey means the whole thing is systemized. Turnkey means you can go away for 4 weeks, not call in, not check email, and the business will be in better shape than when you left. Turnkey means you can sell it to a buyer for a whole pile of money and not have to go along on an employment contract with it. So it's turnkeyed when the whole business is documented, checklisted, with repeatable processes. It's turnkeyed when you've got a little dashboard, so that when you're on the beach in Malibu, then you've got your little dashboard, and maybe you've got a little plug-in thing for your laptop, and you can check in and say, oh, business is doing great. I don't have to call in. Things are great. So you've got a dashboard. We're going to teach you how to do that. And then lastly, your business is not only not dependent upon you, it's not dependent upon anybody. Everybody is backstopped, everybody has a second, and everything is backed up by the systems. That's when your business is turnkeyed. Now, we're going to teach you the rudiments of how to systemize your business. What we're going to cover in the next hour and a half, when you leave here, you will be able to start systemizing your business based on what you learn here. And that's why we've given you the playbooks. We'll talk more about those in a minute. 6 steps to turnkeying your business. And the first one is blueprinting. And that's where you get the lay of the land of your entire business. Next is figuring out what's important so that you know what to do first and what to do second and so on. The next part, which is the heart of it, is how to take a process and turn it into something that's systemized. After that, you'll build a dashboard so that you can measure and control your entire business and get a good, quick little readout, just like the dashboard in your car. You don't have to know anything about engine mechanics or auto mechanics because you've got a dashboard. Then to put it all on a schedule so that the thing runs beautifully, because having systems are great, but you have to know when to run them. And lastly is to be able to improve continuously so that you start with where you are and then you can just keep making it better. Tom?
So, would you rather fix a specific problem or transform your business? That's a trick question. We all know the answer. It's called blueprinting. Blueprinting shows you a complete view of your business. It makes it easy to see what's missing. It makes turnkeying or systemizing all of your business possible, and it shows you where to get started for the best impact. Does that make a useful purpose for the next few minutes? Okay, so here's an example. Real estate developer, my company, find properties, rehab. What else do I got to do? Let's see, rent property. I got to sell it. Yeah, I better pay for it somehow. Finance, and then I got to think about leadership. So that's a very simple blueprint for a real estate developer. Turn to this page of your book. It's inside page 2 and 3.
And it's only about 100 times more complicated, but that's okay, because we're going to make it simple.
And if you have a business, under My Company Blueprint, put it in there, put your business name in. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover each of the broad parts of this tree. And what I want you to do is circle it if you think it applies to your business. See, one of the cool things about the work Paul and I have done is we wanted to create a system that would literally work for any business, period. That's not easy to do. It took us a lot of time to figure it out because so many businesses are different. So some of this will apply, some of this won't, but if it applies, circle it. Sales, upper right-hand corner, sales or lead conversion. If you have sales, circle it. If you don't, circle it anyhow because you need some. Okay, on the top left, administration. That's like paperwork, taking care of paperwork and details. You may not do this, but does your business have this? Delivery of services. Do you have services you provide in doing what you do? Then circle that. Production and manufacturing. If you're strictly service-based business, you may not have something like this. By the time Harv and Rob and the gang here are done with you, you will, because you'll produce products that you may not have thought you should be doing now. I promise you that. But right now, you may not have that. So if you don't have that, don't worry about it. If you have that, circle that. Product development. Well, obviously, they relate to each other. Maybe service development. If you're developing new services, circle that. Finance. If you don't take care of this one, you end up borrowing from the IRS money.
Yes. Make sure you have finance.
Circle that one. Logistics. There might be logistics. In the franchising business, one of our biggest logistics is coordinating cross-border shipments. It's amazing how much time that eats up. Dealing with UPS and FedEx and other couriers and the logistics of that, it just eats up a lot of stuff. So put that down. If logistics are an issue in your business, circle it. They're part of your business. Bottom right-hand corner, human resources, staff management. If you're a solopreneur, if you're in a business of one, circle that, because you really need to get out of that business. If you have staff, circle that. And then lead generation. See the lead generation in the middle here? Circle that, because that's how you start the process. We split sales into two parts, getting the leads and converting the leads. And when I learned that little distinction, by the way, how many people do distinguish that already in their business? Show of hands. Good for you. For the rest of you, this is a powerful, simple insight to distinguish between generating leads and the activity around that, and converting leads and the activity around that. Very different skills, very different processes involved in tracking systems. So we're going to just take a look at lead generation, and we're going to do a simple exercise. What I'd like you to do is, on your own, write down every way you currently get leads. Now, here's the powerful part. This is what it looks like when you take a day or two to work with your business. This is what it looks like. This is a real estate development example. We have a bunch of different examples that we work with, but this is a fully developed blueprint. It takes about a day, maybe two, and it looks very complex, and if you blow up one of the parts, there's an example of what it looks like. But it's really not that complex. But the difference for your business is, are you going to sell it for $9 million or $90 million, as Paul talked about? Take a day or two and blueprint your entire business, and you'll have a foundation for going forward.
Just want to add a little piece about that. The whole blueprinting process is deceptive because we tell you what it is figuring out all the pieces that exist in your business, and that's very powerful. But then what happens is you start to see all the things that your business must have that aren't there. And it gives you the opening and the opportunity to start to create those. And what I've found with working with our clients is that when they start to blueprint and add the things that are missing, their businesses are transformed. So you get a double bonus. You get to document and you get to transform the thing all at the same time. Take this as far as it needs to go. So we've given you 2 levels of it. It may be 3 levels, it may be 4 levels. You just keep asking, what's inside that piece? What's inside that piece? You keep doing it, and it'll be amazing the results you produce. Now, some of you didn't finish. And that's okay, because you're learning it, and we've given you the material to continue yourselves. But you know, this is what your brain looks like. And then this is what your brain looks like when it gets a thought, and then it gets an idea. And that's your brain. This is real. This is not a metaphor. So Dr. Edward de Bono, who is a brain scientist, a cognitive scientist, said that what actually happens when you think a new idea is a little pathway gets etched in your brain. And it's literal. It's a literal etching in your brain. And you know what? It's making a little rut in your brain, and it hurts. There's pain there. So if you feel a little discomfort, that's good news, because it means that you're learning something. So this should be uncomfortable for you. Take it, if it feels a little bit like, wow,
Our job is to cause you pain.
That's right. If you get a little bit of discomfort from this, that's a good thing. You're learning new stuff. So I want to teach you the 12 steps to putting a system where there used to be an ad hoc process. So on the back of your playbook, on page 12.
The very back. Unfold it, and on the very back.
We've given you some blanks to fill in, and the reason we do that is just so you do a little bit of the work and remember it better. The first thing you do is to write down the purpose of the system. Do not skip this step. If you skip this step and you say, oh, I'm not really sure what the purpose is, and you don't write it down, well, why are you doing it? That may be part of your business that you want to throw away. Make sure that you can clearly state what the purpose of each process is, why you're doing it, and what the intended results are. Because that will give you a framework for everything that you do after. And again, if you can't do it, get rid of it. Don't do it. Okay, number 2, establish measurements. In other words, how will you know when this thing is working right? Again, it feels like preparation, very, very important, because you want to build the system to produce a particular result. We're talking about structuring your business so that it is better, so that it is more scalable and more saleable. And every one of these steps is critical. Next is sources of the process, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But you're going to develop a process, and some of these things you know how to do already because you're doing them in your business. That's no problem. You can just look at yourselves. But there are other parts of your business that there's things that you need and you don't know how to do. Or maybe you've got something in there and it really stinks and it has to be replaced. So where are you going to get this thing? So you're either going to get it from yourself, from someone else in your business, or someone outside your business, or perhaps you're going to brainstorm it entirely. You're going to make it up, invent it. So you establish the source. The next step is to actually figure out what the process is, which is either to observe it, someone doing it, or brainstorm it, as in make it up. After that, you'll flowchart it. And I'll show you I'll show you a flowchart right now. That's a flowchart. And the reason we do flowcharts is there are some people who see the process. And you can give them all the words in the world, but they look at it and they go, ah, and they throw it away. So if you just had that, half the people would go, ah, and they throw it away, and they'd never look at your process. So we want to flowchart the process so that the visual people can see it and use it that way, and that's very important. Next, we're going to checklist it. And checklisting is really the heart of the whole thing. Because if you got this check sheet and it says, do this thing next, and I can check it off, and do this thing next, and I can check it off, boy, that thing can drive process throughout your entire company. And this is a simple check sheet. We have something, we call it the hiring seminar, and it's a system that Tom developed to enable you to find people for your business easily, cheaply, and have them match your values and vision for your business. How easy would your business be to run if it were staffed with people who shared your values and shared your vision? It'd be really easy, wouldn't it? So we've got this process, and it's completely documented, and anybody can run it. It's easy to do. It's cheaper than running classifieds and hiring headhunters, and this is the check sheet for how to do it. Now, there's pieces that go with this, because there's a narrative description that might go with each one of those checklisted items, right? Because this little checklist, this isn't enough to tell you what to do, although once you've done it, you'll know how to do it from the check sheet. But you'll need documentation that gives the details, the explanation of how you do each step. So you do that next. Then you add the tools. And by the way, that narrative may be written, it might be audio. If you were a chiropractor, it might be pieces of video, right, to show you how to do those things that those chiropractors do. And then the next is to add the tools. So some steps need more checklists. Some of them need forms or order blanks or little playbooks that go with them. I mean, who knows, the tools that you could create, there's all sorts of them. A key tool is scripts. So when we systemize businesses, we create a lot of scripts. How to answer the phone, how to talk to a customer, how to handle a complaint, how to make a sales call. And those scripts are a core part of the whole systemization process. So now we add the tools. Next, we do something which is really critical, which is we test. It's not a system unless it works. It's not a system unless it produces the results that you're looking for. And the simplest way to test is to give it to somebody who's never done it before. Now, that's not real world. You're probably going to give it to somebody who has done it before, but maybe not. And when you get new recruits, new staff on your team, they didn't ever do it before. So that's how we test. We give them the documentation, the check sheet, all the write-ups, the scripts, the tools, whatever there is, and say, have at it, with no training at all.
Paul?
Yes?
Can I add something to that?
Go ahead.
When we were working with Par Masters to develop our golf training program, this was an incredible part for us. We developed all of our checklists to actually guarantee results for golf training. All right, if any golfers in the room, I know you've already tuned out saying you can't guarantee results in golf training. But that's what we've done. We created the system, and now we wanted to test it. And so we gave it to someone who had never golfed. This is our instruction system. We gave it to someone that had never golfed, had them go through the 34-hour program, and looked and took and watched and see what they could do with the program. They didn't deliver it perfectly, but then we were able to see where the gaps were and make changes. So whatever you have in your business, doesn't matter how complex it is, once you've got it in place, test it with someone at first that doesn't have a clue what to do with it. Look for the problems, look for the bottlenecks, look for the challenges, and that gives you a place to fix it.
I want to talk about Tom's training system for a minute. I'm not a golfer. I shoot 105 on the front nine.
With foot wedge and winter rules.
So I took a lesson from one of Tom's new people who had just learned the system from the training. And in a 3-hour training session, I was hitting razor straight 200-yard drives with a what iron?
You were hitting with a high, probably with a 4 or 5 iron.
With a 4 or 5 iron. So those of you who get what I'm talking about, I'm not sure I do, but those of you who get what I'm talking about, it was amazing. And this was from somebody who didn't know how to train the thing and had trained it from the system itself. So it's really quite amazing. So testing, very, very important. And then, of course, testing, it won't work on the first time. That's good news because now you get to fix it. Next is training. Now, I've just told you about training. You just give them the stuff. But then we take it one step further, which was we might role play it. So certain things like sales conversations and how to handle a customer complaint, we've got them all scripted out. But you do want to role play it because you want people to be able to feel comfortable with the material, whatever it is, and be able to deliver it naturally, again, whatever it is. So some of the things we do need to train, we do role play. It's training. And then next is policies. So here's the problem about systems, and I may as well tell you now. If you have staff will resist it. Why will they resist it? They're going to think they're threatened. They're going to feel like you're taking their job away. They're going to think my creativity is being impugned. So you're going to have to work with them and show them what the benefits of this are, which is now we're going to take away the dumb work that you're doing and make it so that you can be truly creative in your job. And that's a really powerful benefit, and people see it once they start working with it, but they won't see it right away. Most won't, some will. So there may be policies involved, and policies are when you say, this is how we're going to do it from now on. End of story. And you may have to do that and you may not. Most people usually have to go there with certain things. This is how we're going to do it. And you're going to enroll them in helping to create the systems, and the more that you do that, the less of a problem it is. But sometimes you have to implement policies.
Yeah, and when you start with a new system, you're going to almost always have to do that with your existing team. And so it can help a lot if you get them involved in building your systems, because then they help create it. But you're going to have to say, just this is the way we do it. We answer, if you call Par Masters, it's a great day at Par Masters, Tom speaking, how may I help you? And I remember the first time we brought Brandy on board, our office admin person at the time, and she's like, I'm not saying that. No way. I'm like, great, there's the door. And she goes, what do you mean? I thought I was the blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, you are, but if you're not going to follow our system, you won't fit in here. And she was like, what? So guess what? Next call, it's a great day at Par Masters. Brandy speaking, how may I help you? And she got into it, and within a week, it just took a week, people would be leaving me messages on my voicemail saying, who's that new girl you hired? Boy, she's amazing. She's so enthusiastic. She's such a team player. You see, we created this script because we wanted a greeting that said we were an enthusiastic, fun place to be involved with. And now Brandy is enthusiastic and fun, but at the time she certainly wasn't, and it was amazing. We had to just make it a rule.
So the policy is use the system and pretend you like it, and it works after a while. And then the last one, and this is very, very important. The last one is to make it better.
Paul, what's that from Carnegie? Act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic.
And you'll be enthusiastic. So, the last one is, where'd we go? The last one is make it better. So this is very important. I want you to write this down. Don't wait until you've got everything working right to systemize it. You can't make something better if you don't have a firm baseline from which to make it better. So, building a system for whatever you've got exactly the way it is now, unless it is completely non-functional, build a system for it the way it is now. Because once you create that, then you can improve upon it. Because you've got it documented, you know what you do, you've created measurements for it, you've got people trained on it, and everyone doing it the same way, so you can truly see what works and what doesn't work, and then you can make it better. So part of our systemization program, and this is part of the whole process that we've developed, is a way to make it better after you've created it. But only after you've created it. So that is so important. Write it down and put 2 stars next to it. Don't wait. Start now exactly where you are, and it will change your lives. This is a sales process flowchart. I showed it to you a minute ago. You don't actually have to read the whole thing, but I have a question. Has anyone ever lost a sale, either yourselves or through someone in your company? Have you ever lost a sale because the salesperson decided to do it differently? Show of hands. Yeah. And I thank you, and I think it's probably happened to the rest of you if you've sold anything. Because every time you make it up, it's like you're doing it on a whim. We've created sales process, and one of the things that our business coaches are trained in is to create a process for every aspect of the business, including how you sell. And it's not just our way of doing it, it's based on the way that works best in your business. I just wanted to show that to you. Okay, so we're going to talk to you about what we think is the most important part of the entire process, which is figuring out what the process is. And you've only got 2 ways to do it, which is observe it in action, right? See someone doing it, whether it's yourself or someone who works for you or someone you know, or you have to make it up on the spot. And we're going to show you something that we call the Merlin method. The Merlin method. The Merlin method is a way to figure out what's going on, whether you know it or whether you don't. And it's an amazing process. See, Merlin was a wizard who was the consigliere for King Arthur, right, back in Camelot.
I think that means important person.
It means the guy he went to for advice. He said, what's happening here? And Merlin would tell him what's happening here. See, because Merlin was born as an old man and lived his life getting younger and younger. So when Arthur would say, Merlin, what's going to happen? And it was like looking into the future, and Merlin would be like, well, that was his past, because it had already happened. So we're going to use that model, and we're going to start at the end of what we're doing and work our way forwards. And we're going to
do a little interview. Rather than describe it to you, we're just going to show you how it works, and then you're going to get a chance to do this so you can actually build some skills today. Sound like a good way to do it? Okay. So you can follow along on page 4, the Merlin method. We start at the bottom. And for this, we're going to take a specific example we're working on now with quantum growth coaching, okay? So it's real. So when you do this and you break up in partners in a moment, do your best to do something real, because you'll learn faster and better with it, okay? So we're going to take now that we've got the Turnkey Your Business program done, we have we figure 25% of the systems we want ultimately for our entire franchise program. But we have enough now that it's time to start growing our franchise operations. And so we want to award 10 franchises over the next 6 months. And so we're going to role play this thing of how we would do that, what we would go through, okay, just to set the stage.
Now, we're lucky because what we have here is a world-class franchise awarding expert. So I have somebody who I could talk to and say, how do we need to do this? So we'll start. Now, this is really key, and it says it right here. It says, final result, begin at the bottom. This process starts at the end and works its way forward. So, Tom, what are we trying to accomplish?
Well, we would sign or award 10 franchise agreements.
Okay, so that's the very last thing that will have happened. When we've awarded 10 franchise agreements, we're done. So now, just before we've awarded 10 franchise agreements, what will we have had to do?
Well, there's some logistics, but just before that, they would have attended a Discovery Day, which is the step 5 in our franchise awarding process. So they would have come to Discovery Day in San Diego and gone through that whole process.
Good. So just before Discovery Day, just before they come to Discovery Day, what would we have had to have happen?
Step 5, that was 5. So step 4, they would complete a franchise profile online that tells us what type of owner they would make.
Okay. You see where this is going, right? So just before they fill, and you just keep going, just before they would fill out that franchise profile, what would have had to happen in this process?
Now, I'm going to shorten. There's several other stages in our franchise process, so I'll just say we've gone through all the stages, and just before that, we would have received their inquiry either off the website or a phone call.
Okay. So we've gotten their inquiry. Just before we get their inquiry, what would have had to happen?
We would have done some activity to generate that lead either on the web or probably in this case if it's 10 cities in specific newspapers in specific cities. So we would have ran ads in certain cities.
Okay. So just before we run the ads in the city, and just keep asking these questions because you'll find things that you didn't know before. Just before we ran the ads in these cities, what will we have had to do exactly just before that?
We would have had to figure out which cities to run the ads in, I guess.
Okay, so which cities?
Well, in our case, it would be Vancouver, Calgary, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, Dallas, Phoenix, and Houston. That's
Okay.
10, right? Yeah, those are our 10 that we're working on now.
So we've picked the cities. What would we have had to do just before that so that we could pick the cities?
Set the goal.
Set the goal. Okay. Sounds like we're getting to the beginning. What, if anything, would we have had to do just before we set the goal?
Nothing. That's it.
Okay, so we're done.
Yep.
Okay, I would have written this whole thing down, and now what we've got is a forwards to backwards process. It's deceptively simple, but it will show you things you simply didn't know. Because what we're looking for are the connections between things. How could we have gotten there from there? And how could we have gotten there from there? And so on. So we're going to do a little exercise.
Yeah, what we're going to do now is we want you to find a partner, someone you haven't worked with before, quick as you can. Go! We're not going to switch now because we want to cover as much material as possible to help you with your business, and we think you'll learn more by giving extra new material rather than just switching this around. But we would like to share. So mic runners, we'd like to hear first from the interviewers, the person asking the questions, what insight you had, what came up, what ideas flashed through your brain, because other people will be listening in going, oh yeah, didn't think about that, or oh yeah, that happened to me too. And that'll help reinforce the lessons for you as you're using this tool and teaching your team how to do it. This is a brand new tool. Remember that brain thing, the little discharge. So if you've got to share, let's see your hand stand up please, right here, mic runners please. First one here, and then over there, stand up. You'll be next, and then you'll be next. Great. Right here please. Thank you. How about these mic runners? Give them a hand. They're hustling their butts off back here.
The tendencies seem to want to beat it.
I'm sorry. We're just going to jump in. I'm a marketer at heart, so please tell us your name, where you're from, and then your show.
Amy from Pasadena. And
Thanks,
the tendencies seem to want to be to kind of jumble the marketing system with the production system instead of keeping it to one section at a time.
So one of the insights you had was that it was easy to get off track and jumble as you went and asked the questions?
And having me ask her the question helped define and keep it on track.
Oh, good. Excellent. How many people shared that? Excellent. Give her a hand. Thank you. Back here, please.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jerry Brumacone from Victoria, BC.
Hi, Jerry.
The two things that I noticed in the interview process as the interviewer was, one, identifying some of the processes. Were they internal to our business, or were they part of the target business that we're dealing with? This is a sales process
Okay.
we're looking at. So did we start documenting what was happening in the purchaser's company?
And the cool part of that is that naturally sets up a checklist for when you come across that again. If you, let's say it happens to be identified in their company, right? You set up a checklist for that situation. Well, if we have to bid with an RFP, up comes this checklist, then we use that.
Yeah.
Does that
In our sales process that we didn't really go through, a whole half of that is what happens in the customer's company, right? But we need to make sure it happens.
Good.
Good,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good, yes. So I wasn't sure if we'd document that or not. The other thing that I found was how much detail were we micro or macro in the steps, and trying to be consistent with that.
Beautiful. Good. Give me a-
So don't be worried about doing this at too great a level of detail, because what you're trying to do is create a duplicable, replicable process that anybody can operate. So that's your guideline. How much detail do I need so that anybody can get it right? And go to that level of detail, however deep that is.
And what you'll find when you're doing this, some stuff you'll forget about, and then when you start putting the tools together to fill it in, then you can add the detail in really easily later on. So, good. Give him a hand, please.
Thank you.
Back there. And next up, we're going to have the person being interviewed, so start thinking about that. First, one more back here. Yes.
Yes, David from Seattle, Washington.
Hi, David. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. I noticed going through the process that there were gaps, that there were logical gaps, and so I would ask another question, and then the interviewer, who did a great job, would just almost automatically fill the gap in, and then it would just flow smoothly. And then we'd go another 3 questions backwards, and then there might be another gap. I'd ask a question, and then he would beautifully just fill in the gap, and voila, we had a nice process.
Yeah, and what were you doing? What was your process?
Well, I was observing and just attempting to get some rapport with the interviewee.
No, what process were you documenting?
Publishing a book.
Okay, excellent. Good, and so there's a fairly complex idea, right? Publishing a book, and you find the gaps. How many people found that? You had a gap, and then you sort of filled it in as you went. Happens all the time when you're doing this, all the time. Give them a hand. Thank you. Okay, a couple of examples of people that were interviewed who want to share. Anyone? An insight, something yes, right here, please. Stand up. Right there in the back middle, please. Here comes your mic behind you, sir. Boom.
Hi, my name is Clark Frankie. We're from Santa Ynez. I was sharing with my business partner and wife for 25 years. We work together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we are in the process of revamping our companies. And we started this thing going, and humor, actually this sounds funny, but humor came in for the first time in our sharing of giving it back and forth of this process, which is really good. It broke a crystallization, because I honor her strengths and she honors mine, and we got to this point of just the loving came forward.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that. Fantastic. Right here. One final share for this section. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Ryan. I'm from Orange, California.
Hi, Michelle.
And I do
I
financial...
like your oranges. I eat them all the time. They're great.
Thank you. I do financial planning, and I was talking to Constance, and we were talking about the process that I go through from acquiring the client and then backing through it, and how much documentation is required, and how much I keep notes and files. And I find that documentation for me and having an accurate process is critically important to the success of my relationship with my clients. And I'm hoping that you got that conveyed.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much information you have when you're doing something day in and day out and you haven't taken the time to grab it and put it all down.
You have to document, because I don't have enough memory.
Wonderful. Thank you. Give her a hand. The key for us here is that we wanted to demonstrate how easy this is to work with. How easy it is to work with. I'm going to back this up a sec. In other words, this is a brand new process. Some of you may have never bothered to even attempt this before. Never before. You can take a very complex subject, or you can take a simple subject. You can find an industry expert and interview them on the phone and work this out this way. You can buy the answers to some of these questions from people that are out there. Once you know what you're working on, it's amazing how simple it is to work with. How many people think this will help them in their business? Yes. Fantastic. Woo! That's a good sign.
Good.
Okay, next. Dashboards. How do we know if we're doing the right things well? We say what gets measured gets done. You want to measure it. I do a lot of flying, and I'm awful glad the pilot goes through the checklist every single time. Personally, I don't care if they take an extra 10 minutes to do that. And you know, when something breaks down and they don't tell you, and they go to fix it, and there's a delay, I'm not one of those people complaining. I'm sorry, but if their checklist says fix it before you fly, take your time. I have no problem with checklists like that, because our lives literally depend on it in that situation. Well, your financial lives depend on it, and you need to measure that. You need to have a simple way. We call it a dashboard. So here's a finance dashboard, a list of some examples. Cash on hand, credit availability, credit utilization, revenues, cost of sales, cost of goods, gross profit. Oh boy, I paid a powerful lesson in learning that one the hard way. Operating expense ratios, net profit. See, I had no net profit in that previous example. Credit availability, that's an example for finance. Here's an example for sales. And remember, you have the slides. Just email us, we'll get them to you. Number of new leads, number of new sales conversions, active sales, pipeline revenue. In the franchise awarding business, it takes somewhere between 6 and 12 months normally to award a franchise from first contact to done. 6 to 12 months. Well, if you're planning your cash flow in 30-day cycles, you get into some chaos, let me tell you, because you're not planning far enough ahead. You got to plan the cycles around your actual sales cycle. So some of you may have much longer sales cycles than you realize because you haven't bothered to track that. Length of the sales cycle, number of new clients, average transaction size. Anyone in retail here or restaurant business? Show of hands. Just a few people. Well, here's the fastest way to increase your profit. Work on this one. You probably know that if you're in this business. The fastest way to increase your profit is increase your average transaction size, because that can be done overnight, right away, with some good training and some good systems.
Works for consultants, too.
And for consultants. Recurring client revenue, new client revenue. Here's an example of ParMaster's dashboard. And once we created it and put all the parts and pieces together, we then put it into something.
Dashboard.
Pardon me?
Yeah, Quantum's dashboard.
And Quantum's dashboard. Once we convert it all, we can actually, there's great software out there now that you can get that'll take your data and pull it out of your financial information, your Excel sheets or your financial accounting software, and put it up like this. Now, how many people think that or this? How many people, let's use a quick survey. How many think that's a good way to look at it? Okay, didn't think so. How many people think that's a good way to look at it? Yeah, we like it sexy, we like it easy. That's why we call it a dashboard. The cool part is this is just a few $100s worth of software. See, once you know your goal is something out there, the internet has got so many ways to find it and so many ways to piece the parts together. As soon as you know that's my goal, you can work on it. So guess what? You get to create a dashboard. Grab to that page, your performance dashboard. It's the next page in your book. It says performance dashboard on top. It should say your performance dashboard. You can write that in there if you want. Your performance dashboard to match the slide. Where's the slide?
Put that back.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, there's 2 columns of things to measure. 2 columns of things to measure. What I want you to do is take about 30 seconds and just check off everything in those 2 columns that applies to your business. Begin. Now what I want you to do is to go through and circle, just circle in the list of the 2 columns, the ones you think that are really important. Your goal is to find 6. Why 6? Well, somebody studied somewhere and said 5 to 7 is a good thing to keep in your head at one time. I don't know who it was. I just think it's easy if it's somewhere around that. So we'll use 6 as our example. So your goal is to find 6 things on that list, circle them, and then put them up in the circle up above, the little gauge we have on the top line. Write it in. So if you picked revenue as one of the important things to track in your business, on the first circle on the top line, you'd write in revenue. Leave the bottom line free and write that in. Begin. The next part now, and you can finish the exercise later on, but now for the ones you did get filled in, the second line is for what we call a metric. In other words, how do you measure that? So whatever you put on the top line, do you measure it by dollars, by percentages, by time, months, days, years, by numbers of things, maybe by a cost in percentage? Look at the list of metrics. We've attempted to give you a pretty good list here of a bunch of different ways to measure things and pick the one that applies. Sometimes it's a satisfaction level, in which case it'll be a relative satisfaction. You can quantify that. You can survey that. You can look at retention rates, satisfaction rates, turnover rates. And so for each one of the ones you've got on your top line in those dashboard gauges, put a metric in on the bottom line. And when you've got most of those done, raise your hand just to let us know where you're at. Okay, so if you think tracking and measuring is important to your success, put a couple of stars in the top corner of this. You're going to get a lot of information over the next few days. Make sure you come back to it and complete that exercise. And then my challenge to you is put a system in place to measure.
Okay, good. Everybody got one? This step is usually really easy. People know it's you know it's frustrating you, don't you? Right? Okay, we're going to move on to step 2, 2A. So think about how this frustration is impacting your business. Right? How is it hurting your business? What results aren't you getting as a result of this frustration? And be specific. The more specific that you are, the better this process works. What's not happening in your business as a result of this frustration? Oh, I'm a terrible salesperson, right? Well, what's not happening? Sales aren't happening. The results you're not getting are revenue, right? I don't have enough time. What's not happening? I'm not serving my customers properly. So write down what exactly is not happening. What results are you not getting in your business?
Try and come up with numbers. it's costing me this, or I'm losing this amount of time every day, or something like that.
Yeah, the more specific and the more numeric you can be about this, the more real it becomes for you. So I want you to move on to step B and write down what it's costing you personally. Right? A moment ago is what's happening in your business, but now what's happening in your life. You know, whoever didn't come home on Friday night or had a, blow off a date with your spouse or your kids because there was something that you had to do at work that had to be handled. And it was probably the kind of thing that crops up over and over again. We know that there were hundreds of people who couldn't make it this weekend or this week because they had other things that just popped up. I bet some of you just barely even made it here. So what is it costing you personally in your lives because of that frustration?
Okay, mic runners, let's hear some of these. Now, the difficult part is you're going to want to tell us the whole story. We don't want the whole story. We really don't. We have our own story. We have our own answers. Trust me on this, we don't want the whole story. What we want to do is get an insight of the impact. So here's what you'd like you to do. If you're going to share, we'll do one here, and let's go over here, right here. Thank you. This right there, please stand so they get a mic too. Yeah, please, thank you. What we'd like you to do is share the frustration, share the impact, and don't forget to let us know who you are and where you're from. Right over here first, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Calgary.
Hi, Jerry.
Mine wasn't, my frustrations is I am not doing my personal tasks because I'm focusing on my business, so my personal life is falling apart.
Sure. Good. And impact?
The impact is, I'm not being able to focus on my business goals from the constant onslaught of guilt. And feeling that way and trying to do both and prioritize.
Yeah, nobody else here has that.
No. So the results I'm not getting is I'm not being efficient in accomplishing business goals and objectives as much as I'd like to because it's like an albatross around my neck and an anchor I'm dragging.
Got it. Time. Thanks. Give him a hand. Perfect. Thank you for sharing. You notice how we get in that and the frustration is there. That wasn't even, on the surface, it wasn't even a monetary cost.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to know, can you tell us what it's costing you in terms of dollars and cents? Take a guess.
I would say it's costing me, with what I know now, in the next 12 months, if I don't fix this, it's going to cost me $1 million.
Ouch.
Wow. Big one.
Worth fixing, right?
Worth
Oh,
fixing.
yeah.
Thank you. Over here, please.
My name's Val Desardi. I'm from Quincy, Washington.
Hi, Val.
My frustration is my inventory system, and it's just not running smoothly. We're not having the products that we need to sell on time, so we're losing retail sales. The technicians are frustrated because they don't have what they need when they need it. The clients are frustrated.
Have you quantified that, Val?
In dollars?
Yeah.
Well, it's also affected a distributor relationship because there was a meltdown over a death, and
Okay.
so I would say I've lost sleep, I've lost confidence from my clients and some of my staff because they think I should be able to fix it. This is about $250,000 in inventory a year. And
So it's a pretty significant thing.
yeah.
Yeah, give her a hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
So 3A, this is fun. Whose fault is it? We're in the age of blame. It's Bush's fault, it's Harper's fault, it's everyone else's fault, or it's our fault. I'm a lousy person. I'm terrible. I can't get that inventory system fixed. I'm such a loser. I'm going to go to LA for several days and escape. Right? I mean, we got to blame. We're a blame culture. So the question is it the one you wrote down? Are you blaming yourself? Or are you blaming someone else? Okay, who's blaming somebody else? Show of hands. Oh, let's switch it around. Who's blaming themselves? Oh! Big surprise.
See, all frustration comes from this sense of blame, that there's something wrong and you don't know how to fix it. And it's either them, which if it's them, well, it's easy. You can just get rid of them and change them out for some other people. But if it's you, and if you've reached the age that you've got, what are you going to do? Get a personality transplant? It's pretty hard.
By the
So
way,
what do you do?
this audience is extraordinarily unique. You say, well, that's what he expected, mainly self-blame. That's not the norm. That's not the norm. The norm when you do this is 50-50. The difference, warriors, wizards step up and own it themselves. So the fact that you own your guilt is progress.
It's kind of good news and bad news.
It's good news and bad news in that, guess what? It's not your fault and it's not somebody else's fault. Flip the page over. It's that darn missing system's fault. And the best news is you can't solve your problem or their problem. You can only solve this problem. So now, this is one of the most important parts of this exercise. Now you're going to restate it and write down, I'm missing a system that does blank. I'm missing a system that does blank. And fill it in. And when you've got it, look up here. Okay, let's have an example. Quick, mic runners, please. A couple quick examples. Right here, one, please stand up. And we'll do one in this section. We haven't gone over here yet. Who's got a restatement they want to share? Right back there, please. Stand up, sir. I'll get the mic to you. Right here. Thank you. Name and...
My name is Andy Nuttall. I'm from Victoria, BC.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome. And just state, I'm missing a system that does blank.
I'm missing more than one system, I'm realizing.
Yeah, but just pick one for this example.
Okay, I'm missing a system that coordinates my sales and production sides effectively so that we can produce things at the rate that my customers need them produced.
Beautiful answer. Give him a hand. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Augusto Pinat from LA. One of the systems will be...
I'm missing a system that we need to use.
I'm missing a system that do better lead qualifications.
Beautiful. Give him a hand. Thank you.
By the way, do you think you can buy such a system? Yes.
And that's the good news. The good news now, we're going to switch to 4A, which is the general or generic system solution. What kind of system would eliminate the frustration you're experiencing? What would this system do to eliminate it? Like, what would it work? You may not have a clue that there's systems out there for this. You may just say, well, I don't know, I need a system that does this. Paul, you want to take them through some examples?
Yeah, so it might be a system that compares your sales coming in to your production requirements, as somebody just said over here that that's what they were missing. And you describe what that system is. You don't have to know how it does it, because there's actually people out there who know how to do whatever it is that you can figure out. We had someone in one of our courses who was complaining about how his frustration was they couldn't get any money, couldn't describe his business to anybody, couldn't tell people how it works, and he was in total despair and thought the thing was all going to be over quickly. And we did this exercise and he said, oh, I just need a business plan. And all of a sudden, he had all this freedom to go out and run out and create a business plan. It just wasn't there in front of him. Why? Because the frustration keeps you from seeing it. And as long as you think you're to blame, or those lousy customers or people who work for you are to blame, you cannot fix the problem because you're always trying to change out the people. So once you realize that it's the system that's missing, all of a sudden we could say, oh, I just need a system that does X. So specifically, what kind of system would eliminate a frustration? I want to show you some examples, and Tom has graciously put them up there already. So we're going to follow a template, and I want you to follow this exactly on page 9, step 4B. So the way it works is the real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to cost-effectively generate leads. That's the system that you're missing. Instead of having to make it a costly crapshoot each time I go to make a sale. So in other words, the first line, generic system solution, is the system that you have missing. And then the second line is what you stated as your frustration. Here's another example. The real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to easily build staff who can produce consistent, predictable results. Well, guess what? We have a system like that. You can buy systems that do that. Instead of having my team do it do it their way each and every time they go to do something, which would be real frustrating. My last example is I don't have a system. The real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to allow me to plan and manage my time efficiently. And again, you can buy systems like that. You can take courses on that. We've developed a system like that. Instead of having to constantly respond to whatever day-to-day fire is raging in my business, and I know that a lot of people share that. So those are 3 examples. I want you now to go to page 9, step 4B, and write down your generic system solution. What kind of system are you missing instead of having to do it that old frustrating way? What kind of system is missing that would solve your problem? And it might be a sales system, or it might be a time management system, and sometimes you don't see it. It might be a customer service response handling system, so that you handle all those customers in the order that they came in and make sure that they get done. It could just simply be a better inventory system than the one you have now. And you know what? There's great ones out there. It may not be that the way your people are doing it just stinks, or that you're just lousy at doing whatever that thing is, or you don't know how to manage or properly qualify leads. We recently bought a lead qualification system. And if you talk to me offline, I'll tell you what it was. So you can buy these things. Almost any problem that you have in your business, people have seen before. And people come here to events like this, they go, oh, there's a problem out there. I'll build a system for it. And that becomes their product. So your goal is to identify the pieces that are missing and then go shopping for them. That's it. It's really pretty simple. Tom?
We're going to take it one step further. As soon as I take my mic, there we go. Thanks, guys. We're going to take it one step further. Now we want you to quantify the impact. So step 5, and then we're going to share, and we're going to hear your examples worked and the cost. So step 5 now is, what's the impact? What's it costing you? And if you were to figure this out, what would you save in time? How much money would you save? Like, figure it out. Come up with a number best you can. And then also look at the other impacts, emotionally, financially, spiritually. How will you feel if you're able to have that system in place so that you can pay your staff on time every time you want to? What will that be like in your soul, rather than have to get late behind, not that that's happened to anyone in this room, and certainly never happened to me ever in my life, but if you could nail that, what would that be like? What would the impact be? So emotionally, financially, spiritually, take a couple minutes.
And remember, when you came in here, the first thing we did was look at why you were here and what was so important about that. For many of you, the frustrations that you've talked about are in the way of you getting what you wanted, or in the way of you getting what you had here. Now we're looking at what would be the business impact, and what would it mean to you if you're able to fix that frustration and get it out of your life permanently and totally.
And on the top of page 9, if you've got a dollar number, if it comes to something you can guess, put it in the top corner on page 9. Just write it in the top corner. I think it's going to cost, it would make this amount of impact on my business. It's just a guess. We understand. Okay, we're going to stop here because we want to get some answers. We want to get some shares. Mic runners, please. What we'd like you to do here is to read, the real problem in my business is that I don't have a blah, 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 rather than blah, 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 blah. Follow the system as much as you can, and then let us know the impact on your business if you were to knock that off and solve it. Okay? Fair enough? Right here, please, stand up. And right here. And right there. And we'll look at one from over here. Thank you. Right there. Stand up, please, and then get a mic too when you're ready. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm Cordetta from San Francisco. And the real problem I have in my business, I have a still photography business, but I'm also starting another business. Okay. And the real problem is...
But you don't have a system that...
For handwriting.
The real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to tell me what I need to do to run a successful business financially, time management-wise, and organization-wise.
Wow. Instead of having to...
Instead of having to fly by the seat of my pants, trying to be all, and knowing little.
Wow. Thanks for being honest first. Give her a hand for the honesty. I didn't catch your first name. What is it? Your first name?
Cordetta.
Cordetta. What's the impact? Come up with a number. What did you come up with? If you could nail that, if you could put a system in place to do all that, what would the impact be to your business?
The business impact of making this change would basically, I'd be gaining respect of self and others and financial freedom.
Financial freedom and some emotional impact along the way, right? Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go right here.
My name is Therese. I'm from Arizona. I have a chiropractic acupuncture wellness clinic.
Wonderful.
And the real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to consistently and predictably handle billing and collections in a timely and foolproof manner.
Wow, love it. You think there's some power behind that already? Did you notice power just by writing that part down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can tell. You can just tell in her voice. Versus instead of having to...
Instead of having to ask Mary where we are and why aren't our stats better.
Fantastic. And quantify?
At least 5, possibly 10,000 a month.
5, 10,000 a month, 60 to 120,000 a year. Give her a hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back there, and then here.
Well, I'm not a business person, so bear with me on this, okay?
We all are.
The lingo won't be so clean.
That's all right. Who are you?
Hi, my name is Azita Sayon Morgan, and
Hi, Azita.
I do several things. I'm a psychologist in private practice. I also have a publishing, I write books and develop CDs and DVDs.
But you don't have a business. That's not power.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have what.
So read your thing. Now go
Yeah.
down to your thing. That's great. Thank you.
So the frustration is that the sales of our books and DVDs and CDs.
So I'm going to jump in. I want you to follow the format. And the
I
reason
am.
for this is there's
What's
power
bothering
there.
me.
The real
So this
problem
is-
in my business is
Right, so the real problem in my business is that we haven't been able to consistently increase the sales of our books and DVDs and CDs. It's
Fantastic.
inconsistent.
inconsistent sales, yeah,
Yes.
instead of having to be up and down.
Right. Well, it's, something like $5,000 a month, and it has the potential of being $50,000 a month.
Wonderful.
And instead of having a system, we have a mom and pop.
And so if you had a system that nailed that just put that in place where it was predictable and measurable, what would the impact be to your business?
Increased revenue to the tunes of thousands and thousands of dollars
Per month.
per month.
Per month.
And-
Give her a hand. Give her a hand.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Quick show of hands. How many people, we're going to go right here for the last share, but before we do, how many people had an impact more than $50,000 a year? Wow. Fantastic. Okay, yes.
Yeah, my name is Brad Warren. I live in Castro Valley, California. I'm
Pasco Valley.
I'm a business coach and seminar leader. I actually specialize in time management, so a couple of those people that said something, come see me.
Fantastic.
The real problem in my business is that I don't have a system to consistently generate and close the training business side instead of just waiting for the phone to ring.
Wow,
And it's
love
costing
it.
between $60,000 and $84,000 a year.
$60,000 and $84,000 a year. And if you nailed that part, if you nailed that system, how sure are you that you would close that gap?
Absolutely sure.
Absolutely. Give him a hand.
So show of hands, who thinks that the system that they wrote down, the one that they're missing, the real problem in their business is you're missing a system too, who thinks that that system is available somewhere and it's something you could buy or learn how to do? Show of hands. Yeah, good. That's most of you. And who here feels better about that frustration that you had before that kind of suppressed the room? People seem around more lively. Who feels better about that? Show of hands. Good.
Who feels worse? For the record,
All right, well,
two
there's
people.
always a couple.
Thank you for being honest. Two people feel worse. You spend a little time on this and dig a little deeper, and you'll get empowered by it.
Good. So what's cool about this is not only does it work fast, but it's repeatable. In other words, what you can do is work on one of these a week until they're all cleared out. Use our systemization tools to start to create systems where there are ones missing, or perhaps just go out and buy them, because half the things that people mentioned, you can buy those things. You can either buy them or build them.
Guys, let's hear it for Paul and Tom.